Okay, and we are live. Hello, folks. Welcome back to another edition of Cycling 74 Office Hours. We are in the big room. We're in YouTube, the World Wide Web, and I am super excited to have someone that I've been talking to now for a number of years. We've talked before online, in video chats, in the Discord. Alexander Panos. I think if you're here, you're probably largely familiar with some of his work, if not all of it already. But let me introduce Alexander. He's an electronic musician and music sound designer, artistic, current artist currently based in Chicago. His music captures one's emotional experience and how this is mirrored in the stochasticity of nature. I love that whole sentence. It often discusses the mechanisms of longing and becoming. This is manifested in a collage-based approach to composition, which is rooted in genres such as folk, electronica, and yet acousmatic in form. As a freelancer, he builds custom software for musicians, scores, and sound designs independent films, offers services in mixing and mastering, teaches private lessons, and all things music. Professional experience also includes photography, multimedia art, spatial audio, music supervision. And I just want to add there that Alexander is what I consider to be one of the MVPs of the Max Discord, and I think some of you are familiar that this Office Hours series was began there and spawned out into YouTube. And Alexander is someone who is a seasoned Max Pro, and also one of the bigger contributors of the Discord, helping and often being in the Max Beginners section, which is incredible. You're always often one of the first to help folks, and so that's huge. So Alexander, welcome to Office Hours.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks everybody for coming out to this. It's very exciting to be in this position. And yeah, like I got to know Tom through the Cycling 74 Max Discord. I love talking Max, and so it was a very natural progression, sharing that knowledge and helping people with their patches, and just has been very rewarding. I learn a ton from helping people, and I put my own questions out there and get answers. It's been like a really cool community to become a part of.
Yeah, it really is an incredible community, and I've had the pleasure of being part of several different electronic music communities, but I can't really think of one that is more given the complexity of Max and the vast horizons that it can expand to. I can't think of a community that is more welcoming and inviting to such a large variety of artists and art making types, um, and how little conflict there is compared
Yeah,
to
yeah.
compared to other online communities.
Yeah, there's definitely like a sense of um, I don't want to say purity, but something along those lines that's like maintained in that space. And it's very different from a lot of other sort of like software or tech forward communities, where knowledge is shared very freely and there isn't this sort of like implicit, like, oh, this information is trivial, oh, this is obvious, like, like everybody will go out of their way to like sort of lift you up and welcome you in. And I know I've had some not so great experiences learning bits and pieces of programming and computer science, that have been isolating. But the Max community is completely the opposite of that. And, it's a really special thing in that regard, as you said.
Yeah, I often wonder, and I mean, I have no way to prove this at all, but I wonder how much of the beauty of the community is tied to Max in itself and the way Max works, because, I think everyone can appreciate that we're all in this thing together and we're all on this journey and we all understand the difficulty of it. And so, a problem shared is a problem halved. And yeah, you just intrinsically get that after being, after working with Max for a moment.
Absolutely. So if any of you out there are like interested in learning or taking the plunge, or you've been on the fence, maybe you work in Ableton Live and you're interested in Max for Live, like just do it. Like there are so many great resources for like learning, and a great community like to welcome you into that world. So
Absolutely.
there's my pitch.
Yeah, and I think it's worth, I always try to think of it too as a journey, right? It's like, it's the ultimate journey. It's much like life. There's no destination. And, you just continually progress. You can also, you can use Max within moments of opening it for the first time in your creative practice. Like you don't need to quote unquote, master it or whatever in order to be able to use it. That's kind of the beauty of it. Uh, Alexander, I don't even know where to start with your body of work, and I have so many questions that I want to ask you. But like something that really, I think, made you more widely known in the community in the last few years was the release of Color Transfer, your Max for Live device series. Uh, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So color transfer, for those who are unfamiliar, it's like a Max for Live bundle of three devices: the timbre resynth, the cepstral morph, or cepstral, however you like to pronounce it, and then a Foreman shifter. And each of these devices they kind of do unique things and process audio like through the framework of like the human voice, specifically a concept called the source filter model. So if you're interested in learning more about that, like those are the terms you should start to look into. But yeah, color transfer is sort of like, in a lot of ways, the end game. Well, not the end game, but like a logical conclusion for some of my own personal interests that I've like lasted for ages. When I was first exposed to electronic music, I was like 12 or 13, and I found this guy on the internet making this like crazy speed techno. It was basically like orchestral music, but like set to like synth presets,
Love
from
it.
FL Studio. And like one of the synth presets was like this talking vowely like lead bass sound. It sort of had this like oil kind of quality to it. And I had never heard anything like that. And I like immediately fell in love with it. And since that moment, I've been particularly interested in sounds that sort of occupy the uncanny valley of things that are purely synthetic, or just artificial or whatever, and then things that are like very strictly human speech or singing. And like the things that happen in that like weird middle ground, I think are the most interesting, because like the human voice is like the most interesting sound in my opinion. Like we're biologically attuned to the human voice, and so like anything that bears a vocal quality is like going to be immediately interesting.
Mm.
And that's definitely part of the reason I fell in love with all of this. So I started writing this album many years ago, called Nascent, which ended up releasing in like 2022. And Nascent was sort of like Nascent was a lot of things to me, but like a core aspect of the sound design was exploring the human voice, in new and interesting ways, and sort of like in a very self-indulgent way, like digging into these interests that I have. I have
Mm.
a track on Nascent. It's called Reasons Not To, and it's like 5 minutes of just exploring what you can do through like processing the human voice in all the various ways. And so it was like through writing Nascent and that like I got deeper into Max as part of my creative practice. And eventually I built up the skill set to like tackle the technical aspects of this flavor of vocal processing like in Max and sort of explore it technically and creatively at the same time. And so the devices from Color Transfer were born out of that. And I never really initially had any intent to sell or distribute them. It was just like, oh, these are like things I like to use for myself, and like they sound really cool, and so on and so forth. But like I kind of got the impression as like following the release of my album that people are like very interested in how like not just like the way that I make music, but also like the tools that I've built for myself. And so in 2023, I spent like a very, very long time. It's an arduous process, like turning these little tools into like fully fledged devices and distributing them as like a real product. But like this is kind of like a big part of my philosophy when it comes to patching and just like creating anything. Like I have a couple core like tenets and or like intuitions that like basically inform or like motivate me to do anything that I do. And
Mm.
like pulling from my own artistic interests and like these like long seated interests in like the human voice, for example, is very much in line with that. Because I wouldn't have been able to create Color Transfer if I was just sitting around being like, I should sell a Max for Live device. Like, what can I come up with? It's like I
Right,
would be
right,
like
right.
banging my head against the wall, like drowning in like the marketplace and this
Yeah,
like the sense
yeah.
of competition that comes with that. And it's like if it comes from like my own interests, it's like a lot. It just like it makes more sense, and like these devices are built to reflect my own like how I go about like writing music and
Right.
like the way they're all tuned or it's suited for my practice personally, but has
Absolutely.
found a wider audience. So that's sort
Yes.
of like that's how Color Transfer came to be. Sorry.
Yeah. No, no, it's it makes sense, and I think that's worth thinking about is that, this is not just some Alexander with his capitalist approach to music making. Like it,
No.
this is, yeah, this bundle of devices, which are incredible, and I have had the pleasure of working with them for a few years now, is that they're a direct release extension of your creative process, and I think that's what makes them very special, and unique. And in itself, I love that we're in this world now where, as an artist and a music maker, you're not just left with some digital downloads that you can sell, or being exploited by the streaming services.
Yeah.
You can actually make some actual money, and so maybe some of these other aspects of your creative practice, or share them in other ways. And it's kind of amazing. You can think a lot of electronic musicians, although there was some, of course, 20 odd years ago who would develop their own VSTs, the options were a lot more limited. For the electronic music artists, you kind of had to take what was there. And it was a lot more of a divide between, I think, the developer and the musician than there is now. That gap is shrunk a lot, which is
Yeah.
exciting.
Oh, it is. It is. More people like now than ever are becoming like plugin developers, and it's been very democratized in
Yeah,
that sense. And Max is in no small part a reason why.
yeah. Something I took note of was that how it was kind of fun because if you were following along on Discord, you could tell you were building something pretty extensive. Like, like it wasn't just you're working away in a black box and then all of a sudden, boom, color transfer. Like, actually, if folks were to dig back through the Discord, they will find
Yeah.
little bits and pieces of color transfer as you develop them, and you're in the Gen channel, asking questions. And I loved how open that process was, and seeing that kind of come together over the years. I thought that was super cool that you took that approach. I mean, um, yeah,
Oh yeah, no, it was like definitely like number one, like the fastest way to like develop my skills and like learn and yeah, like if you go back scrolling through messages or whatever, you can definitely find me asking questions like to like Graham Wakefield, like how do I like batch process like FFT frames
yeah,
inside of Gen, or how do I like asking like Timo Hoogland, like I remember specifically having a conversation with him about like creating the visualizer for the tambourine synth and how that might look.
nice.
Because yeah, like jitter isn't really my specialty, so I always could use a hand there. And of course, he was very generous. But yeah, like it's a great way to move through the process. And I'm definitely not the only one. There are a ton of people who prototype in that space as well.
Yeah, and you dropped a few legendary names there too, like Timo Hoogland, absolute MVP of the Max
Oh yeah.
community, constantly helping people. But Graham Wakefield, the inventor slash developer of Gen, who's pretty much in the Discord every day. I mean, there's not too many other software companies out there where you can have a borderline to the minute dialogue with the actual developers of the program.
Oh, yeah. It blew my mind, like seeing the guy who invented Gen just like casually active there all the time. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, very rare, very
yeah.
rare.
I mean, but you've also got Joshua Kit Clayton in there. There's
Oh
several.
yeah.
Isabel. It's. I think it's truly unique. I can't think of too many other places you can go where you can have that level of dialogue. Um, I'm curious about this color transfer series. Are you using those live in the same form as which they were released, or
Yeah, yeah. Not it sort of changes like set to set, but yes, like absolutely. And especially in my generative music, I will often like I have like little sort of sometimes I'll use like the actual devices in like Ableton Live, but I also have sort of like inline abstractions I can throw in my patches, which comes up in my generative music or just like sort of wherever. So it does get use live. Definitely more use in my productions though, just because like a lot of the color transfer stuff, because it's like spectral processing, like you're going to like incur larger latency because of the FFT
right, right,
sizes and everything like that. But obviously, there's like you can totally like make it work for live, and I've done that extensively. But for production, it's like definitely more common for me to use it there. But yeah,
right. Yeah, because I did see, and I want to touch on this, and we'll get into it. I did see, clips of you on tour recently with
yeah,
Baths. I'm not sure. Do you
yeah.
just say it like Baths, or what is
Yeah.
the?
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like baths. I mean, I think how you were saying it, like given um, your country of origin, is totally
Yeah,
valid. Like, I don't think Will would have a problem with that. So,
yeah. It's yeah. Let's not get into my pronunciation of words.
it's fine. It's fine.
It's a complete mashup between Australia and America these days. Um, And yeah, I mean, amazing those clips, and granted they were Instagram, stories, people were taking in the moment room audio, but and in a sense, not lower fidelity. But what amazed me about that was how how rich it sounded coming through just like Instagram stories. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure he's using, color transfer or color transfer methods here in his live performance. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
that was a decent tour. How many dates was
Yes.
it?
It was six, and it was
Yeah,
actually the first time I've been on tour. I've played like more shows this year than I ever have before, and for many reasons, mostly because I've had a very rocky relationship with live performance.
yeah,
But like I kind of figured out a way to turn things around on that front, and
nice.
it's been a lot of fun, playing shows and getting to meet people and see
Yeah,
friends like going across the country and stuff. So
right.
still very new to this, but very much enjoying it.
One-off shows are difficult because often the case is there's a month between them or more, and the setup is never the same. Like you change a little thing, or you bring in a new controller, or blah blah blah, and like it's hard. I mean, doing consistently good random one-off performances is actually really difficult, and
Yeah.
stringing together shows over a month, or doing several shows, it's definitely, that's where you really find, like, it's definitely, I feel like live performances that to get away from that rockiness that you mentioned is the only way is to go through like
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and then I love that feeling like after a show or two where the muscle memory kind of
Yes.
starts kicking in,
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
like it's pretty special. It's pretty special.
Yeah.
I
That's.
I get why
Sorry. Go
people
ahead.
get addicted to it. Because yeah, everything just goes to another level.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was definitely not something I had previously experienced. But yeah, at a certain, like the second or third show, I was like very much like locked in, methodical, and then I could start to play with the performance, right?
Yeah,
It didn't just
yeah,
have to be exactly what I
right,
rehearsed,
right.
because there's so much room for, like, especially in what I do, like a lot of it is improvised or like at least within certain boundaries, and so I was able to like kind of prototype on the fly, and that was really fun.
That is something I'll never forget experiencing that for the first time, where it's like you've got the set plan, but then you've played it over several shows, and then you get to the next show and you're just like mid show going off on this like tangent that wasn't part of the show, but you're
Yeah.
so locked in and confident with the set that it's, yeah, that's pretty special. Funnily, I felt like I could see that happening over the course of the shows with you. Like I felt like the stories and reels and whatever were being shared in the later shows. I felt like I could see you just like full body, just having the best time. Like, yeah. I'm curious about your setup on stage. It was a little tricky to see in videos. I'm like, are you running live, Ableton?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Max for Live, you
Yeah.
got a keyboard. What else
It's
is going on there?
it's pretty self-contained. It's not a crazy setup. It's my laptop running Ableton Live and Max for Live, as you said, and then I have this like Arturia Keylab 61, which is to my right now, and
Yep.
a vocal mic and like a pedal for the keyboard, and that's like it as far as like what I'm actually using to generate the sound. But like a lot of the complexities are like in on the software side of things. I've never been much of a gearhead. I like doing everything digitally, so that's kind of where that's the basket I put all my eggs in for my live shows. And yeah, just with that setup, like I can do like a whole bunch of different things, obviously, with like, especially like Max, like powering the whole thing and live powering the whole thing. So
Amazing. Uh, in so your main controller is the keyboard,
Yeah,
and there's no other controllers there.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, you reminded me a little bit of seeing Telefon Tel Aviv on stage because
Mm.
with the microphone and like wasn't the a more minimalist rig. Um, yeah, it looked like it was comfortable. It looked like it's a good touring setup. Not too many possibilities for headaches or
Oh yeah. No,
that
we would
kind of
like
stuff.
both Will and Baths and I would we would get there, at load in, and then we would load in and sound check both of us like in 40, like under 40, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like we were we got really tight with it. And because everything's so self-contained, it was extremely fluid process. And like everybody we worked with, as far as like sound teams and the venues, they were all great. So that's probably why it sounded good
Did
over social media.
Did you know Will before the tour? I'm curious. Like,
We had talked a little bit online. He discovered my music like within a couple days of me releasing Nascent because of Telefon Tel Aviv, because of Joshua, um, sort of bumping that album like on Twitter, I think,
nice.
and he found it through this producer called Little Snake, whom I know personally, and so like that was sort of the progression of events, and then I just got a random text message um,
Oh,
like
that's cool.
3 weeks before the tour, and or 4 weeks or whatever, and he was just like, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, as you said, the only way to settle the rockiness is just like head right through it. And I was like, let's go for it. So
Right, right. Um, yeah, shout out to Telefon Tel Aviv.
big time.
Great contributor to the community and constantly putting other artists up on the pushing other artists to the top, which is really special for someone that's for to see from someone who's been in the industry and been around as long as he has. Um, and Will too. I mean, it looked like you two really hit it off. I mean,
Oh yeah.
uh,
Yeah. No, it was
so that's
surprising.
great.
Like he is an incredible person. He's the kind of guy that just like knows exactly who he is and just like exudes knowledge and confidence and is, he was my mentor through that process, and I learned so much from him. And like we also connected on so many different things. Like there's this very specific period of trance music from like 2008 to 2012 coming out of like Armin van Buren's like selection of sub labels that like basically like very few people talk about or are plugged into.
Nice,
But Will was, and we like bonded heavy over that, which was
nice,
great. Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I I think he's used Max a little over the years as well. I'm not entirely sure. I know I did strike one of his collaborators, Morgan. Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, uh, in a workshop once.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I don't know how much they use it or yeah. I
Yeah, I
think
think like mostly, like at least for this particular tour, it was mostly like Max for Live devices.
yeah.
I don't think he does much as far as like Max programming himself. But and I don't know Morgan myself, but like I would not be surprised if Morgan was very deep into Max as well.
Yeah, yeah. Um yeah, I think you'd be hard pressed to find many Max Ableton Live users these days who don't use some form of Max for Live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty pretty safe bet with most folks. Um Nice. Uh yeah, that's incredible. And yeah, I mean, congrats. It seemed like you certainly found some new fans on that tour, which is always nice as well. So, and getting to link up with people who have been following your work for a minute.
Yeah, that was very special. that whole side of things.
Yeah, we love it online, but there's something special about, seeing a person face to face
Totally, totally.
and meeting them. Alexander, I reckon it's time for a screen share or two.
Okay, sure.
Folks, we blasted through some sound checks earlier, and I had to just chill out and not blast Alexander with a million questions because he's got some pretty cool stuff to show us. Maybe
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want to show us some of the color transfer stuff first because that's kind of relevant to what we've been talking about, and then we can get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
some other
absolutely.
Mac stuff.
Sure. Okay. Let's hope this works first try.
Let's see. Okay, that's looking good here.
All right. So, should I start with this or this? As far as color transfer goes, this is probably a good demo.
Uh, yeah.
Hold on. Got to resolve the file locations. 1 second. Okay. Are we good on that front? It looks like, yeah, it looks like everything's fixed for the most part. Okay, so, right.
Okay, that's sounding good to me.
Okay, cool.
Can folks hear that all right? I'm guessing they can. It all starts so soon.
Okay, so this is, yeah, this is a vocal stack. Me just singing like a bunch of layers. I use this in a couple demos of color transfer. But I'll kind of just go through the devices and what they do. So the flagship device of color transfer is called the timbre resynth. And the idea here is that it takes two inputs, the sound you want to transform, and then a secondary sound source from which you want to extract the timbre. And it will essentially like analyze the audio. It'll listen to like all of the frequencies present in like the sound you're trying to transform, and it will resynthesize that sound using the timbre of that secondary like external source. So the most straightforward way to demonstrate this is like I just have an operator here, just playing like a square wave, just a straight note like that. And the timbre resynth will grab the timbre from operator and resynthesize the vocal stack using that timbre.
Love
So
it.
I'll do a little dry wet.
It all starts so soon.
And because we're resynthesizing from like an arbitrary external source, like this operator can really be anything. I can I I can start messing around with like the partials.
Oh wow.
And I can like even do a little bit of FM synthesis. And like that timbre is like now being used to reconstruct the vocal stack.
Sounds so good.
And it's not limited to soft synths. Like you can use live input. You can use like a saxophone or a vocal or like any kind of monophonic thing to like grab the timbre from. Even drums work. So there's a lot of like sound design possibilities with the timbre resynth. And it has a bunch of built-in controls too. Like you can do form and shifting. Let me go back to the square. That's a pretty good. You can like add portamento. There's like a polytuner, so you can like tune all of the frequencies into like a particular key. And like you can clock the resynthesis speed. You get like these big like clusters of sounds.
This sound just makes me so happy. It's just, it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the tambourine synth. That's like the main thing. The other like super main thing, I guess that wasn't worded very well, but the other thing is the substral morph, and this basically allows you to
Can you
morph.
just explain a little bit about septral morphine or the
Yes,
septral process? Because it's you did tell me about this one time before, and it's fascinating to me. Like,
yeah. So this is like a topic I like will occasionally like go out and teach, and it's very deep and like a little bit tricky to understand intuitively without going through like a full 2 hour lecture. But the idea, actually, let me see if I can. I think I have like a. I have some visuals, right? The idea behind cepstral processing or cepstral processing, however you want to say it, is you take the FFT of a spectrum. So there's like two FFTs going on. And the reason one might want to do this is because having access to this new domain of this new signal domain like gives you access to certain features of the audio that you wouldn't otherwise have access to in in a spectrum. So
wow.
let's see. This is like a whole thing. So basically, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier with like the source filter model situation. You can sort of like very simply model a human voice using these two components, like a glottal pulse, which is like some kind of oscillator that is periodic. I guess that's implicit in the word oscillator, and then a vocal tract, which like filters the sound. So your
Mm.
glottal pulse is like the literal vocal folds that are flapping in your throat, and then the vocal tract is like your mouth and tongue and sinuses and teeth and like how they filter that oscillator, and then you're left with a speech signal. And a lot of like the processing that you can do like with color transfer, like the process, like the techniques it's built on is basically like extracting these two features from a signal. So like doing this whole thing in reverse. So like starting with some complex signal like speech or otherwise, and then like extracting the component that maps to the vocal tract and the component that maps to the glottal pulse.
Wow.
And so like this is like a single spectrum of speech, like just like an instantaneous moment. Maybe it's somebody saying like the vowel ah, and like there's just like a snapshot of it. And basically that you can kind of see that there are two components to this graph here. You have this sort of like these like long sort of curves, and this is what's called the spectral envelope, which is basically just like the broad peaks in the contour of the spectrum, and this maps to the vocal tract. So this is kind of the filter in the source filter, and then this sort of like higher frequency signal that's like buzzing around very quickly is like the pitch information that's encoded in the signal, and this maps to the glottal pulse. So cepstral processing is a way to take a sound's spectrum and then process it in such a way to isolate these features. And you do that by taking the FFT of this spectrum. And what's my little thing?
Wow.
Yeah, like the goal of cepstral processing, like abstractly, is serves to as a tool to investigate periodic structures in frequency spectra. That's like straight off the Wikipedia. And then practically speaking, it's used so we can separate the spectral envelope and the spectral detail to work with either independently. So
And the
I know that,
glottal pulse is coming from the
yeah,
larynx, right?
I
Is that it?
believe, yeah, it's like the vocal folds. I don't know,
Yeah, because
like
now I'm
vocal
realizing,
physiology.
yeah, and I could be wrong, but now I feel like I'm realizing, like, when someone's had throat surgery from
Yeah.
cancer or something like that, they use I think it's an electrolarynx, and they put it
Oh,
on here, and that's just a pulse generator
yeah.
that I guess creates a simulation of the glottal pulse. That's
It,
wild.
intuitively, that makes
And then,
sense.
because then they can talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And that
I
would
mean,
make sense because I guess we can vary our glottal pulse, right? Like
yeah.
a little bit. Whereas if you
Yeah.
just have the device, it's a constant. That's why the voice sounds a little robotic.
Yeah, like
This is incredible.
if you, I mean, the reason we'd want to separate the vocal tract component from the glottal pulse component is because like the most meaningful information like is encoded via the vocal tract. Like I can move my glottal pulse and not my vocal tract, and it would sound like right?
Right.
Or I can not move my glottal pulse and only move my vocal tract and be like, hello, my name is Alexander. And obviously, there's like a lot more information encoded in that example. So we really care about the vocal tract, the spectral envelope. So what the
Wow.
cepstral morph is doing is basically like getting the spectral envelope from one sound and or getting like taking two sounds, extracting their spectral envelope and spectral detail respectively, and then you're able to like mix and match one with the other. So I guess to demonstrate this,
Yeah,
I
let's hear
have
it.
I have like a little vocally thing here.
I will now have become my knowledge. My knowledge. I have become my knowledge.
So it's like it just had the important thing here is that it has vocal qualities.
Yeah,
And then we
yeah.
have another sound that does not have vocal qualities to it. Sort of this noisy bass thing. But
Yeah,
if I
that
morph,
could be out of a sci-fi film like June or something. Like that's cool.
exactly. But like with the morph, we can take the spectral envelope of our vocal sound and impose it onto the pitch information of the bass thing, and you get something like this.
I will now have become my knowledge. My knowledge. I have become my knowledge. Again. I will now have become.
So now it's like kind of talking at you, if you will. But yeah, that's like the kind of actually not the best example, but like that's the idea. And like there are a lot of like this source filter model thing isn't exclusive to substral processing. Like any kind of system that can capture the spectral envelope of a sound like can do this. And vocoders are a great example. Like
Right.
they're able to do this using a filter bank, like using a bunch of
Right.
bandpass filters, right? To like track like the amplitude of the spectrum at a particular frequency, and then like they get this sort of crude map of the spectral envelope and
Right.
like use that and put it onto another sound. So there's like a bunch of cool overlap here between like this and other kinds of processing. And then Foreman shifting, which is the last device in the bundle, is taking the spectral envelope and then either expanding it to form and shift up or compressing it to form and shift down.
Mm.
So if I go back to like the vocal stack thing, I can shift it up. And that is literally we're taking this curve here and like stretching it out. Or we're compressing it. And you can kind of even see that on the visualizer here, like in that little spectrum. When I shift it down, the spectrum actually compresses.
Nice.
But yeah, that's all that. Like we can talk about this topic for a very long time.
That's color transfer, folks.
It's color
Wow.
transfer.
The link I did post it before, but I'll repost it again if you want to see more. There's a ton of examples on this page. Just know that if you decide to purchase it, you are directly supporting Alexander and his creative process.
Yes.
Alexander,
Thank you.
yeah, you're not supporting some faceless conglomerate. God, I'm really down on capitalism, aren't I?
It's so fair.
Alexander, let's see some Max. We love a bit of
Yeah.
Max. Yeah,
Sure,
folks. Let's
sure.
do it.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think. So, like, okay, I got a lot of options here. So this is an old patch of mine, but it saw extensive use on my album Nascent. And actually, before I get into this, let me show you the simple idea. So this is not what it originally looked like. This is like a little abstraction I made that sort of makes it easy to use. But basically, the idea is you can drop an audio file in here, and it will start chopping it up and reversing it and playing it back faster or slower, jumping the octave around, just to like glitch the sound up. And the idea for this came from like just being on YouTube and like hitting the number keys to like skip around a video and like making glitches that way. And I was like, oh, I can use Max to like automate this process. And this was like one of the first patches that I made that like saw a lot of use in my own practice. But I'll start with this like little piano thing here, just so you can hear what the original file sounds like. So just some like,
Yep.
little piano stuff, and then I drop it in here.
Oh, lovely.
So you can see every time there's like a new trigger, which is randomly happening, the playhead jumps to a random location in the sample, and then like it gets played forward at normal speed, forward at half speed, forward at double speed, or reverse at those options as well. And then there's like windowing, and I can transpose it. And what's also cool is that like I get the buffer name out as like a message, so I can like record into this like live, which is pretty fun. I wonder if I can actually do that really quick. Live coding.
We love to see it. We love to see it.
So if
Anyone can
check
make a Max patch and just present it, but
through. Okay, let me set this to one second. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Hello, ta da 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 da.
Check. No.
So you can hear it's like I have to set the loop. So you can imagine you can imagine like putting something other than my stupid voice in this right now, like in like a generative patch can be pretty cool. So like, so that's the idea, this like sample playback randomizer thing. And then I have like a version of it with 10 where I can like load 10 of these. And so it'll have like a sample playback randomizer module for like up to 10 audio files. And then also between those 10 randomly choose which one is being played. This is, once again, this is an old patch. I'd probably like, if I were to remake this, the UI would look a lot more polished, but
Oh, I don't know. It looks pretty polished to me.
I can just start
It looks
dropping.
functional and usable.
It is. It's, you can get pretty quick with it. But I could just like drop things in here.
This sounds so good.
And it'll just start like doing all these crazy chops and everything. And then I have like a little probability thing. It's just like an I table, I think. Right? Yeah. And I'm just like, I can set how frequently like a particular sample will be played. Like if I want like the first sample to play more often than everything else, I can drop the probability of all the other samples. And now I'm mostly getting that first piano sound, and everything else will only happen once in a while. But yeah, and this is like a very fun thing to play around with. There's a track on Nascent. I have, it's like this spoken word thing. It's called Equinox, and yeah, like this is the climax of the album, and for this moment in Equinox, I use this patch, and I take the full track that I had written up until that point and like tossed it in here to like get this effect.
You human life.
I actually don't know if you can hear that. Oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Human life.
For once!
Lost off.
So like all of that like glitching was like a recording, like an output from this patch, and I just basically like brought that recording into my DAW and like wrote around it for this like climactic bit of the album. And yeah, it's like this thing makes its way into my music very, very frequently. It's one of like several tools that I often reach for because it just gives you really great, interesting full spectrum output like immediately. Yeah.
Dude, just
So that's this thing.
hit quick record and throw it up on Bandcamp later today.
Yeah.
Instant hit.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting thing to contend with. Like a lot of my patches do this where like the output can just be a full song if I wanted it to. So a lot of the practice is like curating the corpus that these patches use so that they're like actually usable and not kind of overwhelming the existing composition. But in any case, it's very fun to use.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Andrew Benson just said here in the comments. Like, we'd love to hear the result next to the patch. So it is, as someone who's been listening to your your output for some time, it is really cool to see the process and the output in unison.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
With
got-
those samples, are you making sure they're in a particular key or tuning before you're
yeah,
dropping them
so
in?
so this is part of like the curation bit. Like in this case, I grabbed files from my sound design folder that all happened to be in like A flat major.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be the case. Like sometimes I will have like mostly textural or like atonal sounds
Yeah.
populating this thing. Or I might have sounds in different keys, and then I can like use the I table to like set the probability of one when I want one key active, or like another when I want the other key active. So there's like a lot of flexibility, but yeah, in this case, everything was very much cherry picked, which is kind of the point.
Right. Yeah. Wow. But to me, it sounds like the possibilities are endless. Especially when you consider how much, the variety of source material you can bring in. And I do know that you use field recordings and bring those in. Do you ever tune them, or you just kind of bring them in as they were recorded, or?
It depends. I think that like if the field recording has like a melodic element, that's definitely something like I'm considering. Like if there's a very clear pitch, I will be aware of that and like how I use stuff. But if it's like not that, it's a little bit more haphazard, I guess. But yeah, field recording is like a very important part of what I do for sure.
Yeah, I'm really loving how, not that it's making a comeback, because like field recording and Foley never went away, but like I do feel like it's making its way into deeper realms or corners of electronic music that perhaps didn't or perhaps didn't or was never associated with you know, field recording. To add texture and add this organic quality to a sound that was otherwise very, you know, tech, very computer.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know, but
Yeah, and to that point, like the thing that I love about it and like the reason why I use it at all is because like it's a very literal way to like insert a piece of myself, a piece of my life into my music, like bringing the listener to like a location that I really care about or recording objects that I have some personal connection with. It's such a great way to do that, even if it might not immediately come across like that. For me personally, it does, and I feel that. So I imagine that there's some kind of translation happening
well,
there.
I just want to say, like, something I was struck by recently was because she just won Australian Album of the Year, Nina Geraci.
Oh yeah.
She's using field recordings in EDM. Like, what? I don't know. Like, that's, I mean, there's been vocals used in EDM for some time, but like, she's taking, you know, Foley that she's out capturing and then applying her percussive structures, her MIDI to it. Um, and then, you know, slicing it and doing all sorts of stuff. I think it's very cool. And I heard an example of it in play and was like, wow, it actually, this really is adding something quite different here. Nice. I love it.
Hell yeah.
No, this is sweet. Beautiful work, mate.
Thank you. I got more. I don't know what our time
Oh,
is
we're
here, or
good.
if we want to take
I think
questions
we've
or
got a solid crew on the stream still, and I think folks are and Zelda's just arrived because she knows it's about to get real good. So um
oh my gosh.
no pressure that Zelda's here. But yeah, we got some time. We can probably go for another half an hour or so. So maybe another 15 of patch sharing or so. No
Sure.
pressure, and then
Yeah.
we'll dive in. I've got a collection of questions here, and we'll get those answered. And folks, if you have any more questions, drop them in the chat. I'm keeping a tally on them, and we'll get them all answered by Alexander before we log off.
Sweet. Yeah. I'll show let's see. I do have like some generative
Oh
music
yeah,
I can
you were talking about that earlier. I'd love to see that.
yeah. Let me open this. Um so the way the way I make generative music is like not very it's not best practice. Like I've never sort of endeavored to like build a system. I much more enjoy just like starting with a blank patch and like building stuff up from scratch. So the
Nice.
way I ended up translating that is just like wrapping that entire patch like in a polytilde and like putting it in a Max for Live device and then just like turning off the DSP until like I actually need to use it.
Love it.
So it's like a little jank in that regard. But like these are a couple patches that I perform with. So this first one, it's like three elements. I have this like field recording here, and then like a piano. And then I have this like other element here where I can hit my foot pedal. I'll literally just like pull it up really quick. I can hit my foot pedal and it'll like trigger this like bit of sound design, this like big hulking bass.
Wow.
And so performing this is very fun because I can just do like all this like very floral sort of impressionistic stuff on the piano with the field recording, kind of like giving this atmosphere, and then like this bass will come in and be this very deep contrast.
Wow.
So this is just like very fun to mess around with, and it sounds huge on like an actual system.
So, are you okay to just play for the rest of the day and we'll just chill here in the chat?
Yeah.
Damn, that
I
is
mean,
so
I could do
nice.
that.
That's so beautiful, Alexander. Wow.
Thank you.
Super lush. I love that whilst being delicate, it's also, you know, it's got substance. Like this,
Yeah.
it's, I can, I've got it. I haven't seen you live, obviously, and I can't wait to see you live. I was bummed that you didn't come to LA with Baths.
Yeah, I would have loved to.
But it'll happen, and I can't wait to hear that big bass on the PA.
Absolutely. I'll play it out just for you.
That's awesome, man. I love this approach. You mentioned the word jank. I
Oh
always
yeah,
love I
yeah.
love that phrase because I don't know if there's any other world where jank gets thrown around more than in the world of Max Hemisphere, but like in an affectionate way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but like SV1 is SV1's here in the chat. Shout out.
Yo.
And he said, whatever gets the job done, and this is it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, literally. It's funny. Sam and I were just kind of talking about this whole set of I like problems to be solved just the other day. So
Oh,
it's
nice.
surreptitious. But this is another thing. This is another track I do live. This one I usually do with vocals. This is a fully generative piece, so like every time I play it, it's different. So that's like the gist of it, and then obviously there's this whole like vocal component that we're not getting right now, but yeah, this is like typically how I would like lay out a generative patch. These like patcher tabs are very useful for that.
Can you just explain? Someone asked, "What is it doing?" Like, and I think they mean like, what is the what generatively
Yeah.
what's happening?
So the way this works is I have like it's basically like it's like sequencing samples, but also like sequencing like generative like effects and everything. So I have a folder of my media folder. So like I have a bunch of chords here that I like rendered out.
Nice.
And like each of these chords has its own like Roman numeral designation, like as part of the file name. So like
Yep.
so like these that's like the minor six. This is like the that's actually incorrect. Whatever. It's actually not the Roman numeral designation. It's the I think it's the pitch class. So like whether or not it's like a D or an E or whatever. That's what these like numbers
Gotcha. Yep.
are representing on the end of the file name. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I have like this sequencer up here, which is like little Markov chain thing, first order Markov chain thing that is like basically telling the patch like when to play which chord, and then based off of that, like the pitch class, the pitch class is extracted from the current file's name and sent to like drive like a sub bass or like this like resonator.
Yep.
And so like that's like the main melodic element, and then I also have like this like randomly generated like text to speech thing, and the chords are being morphed with that with
Right.
that speech. And so I have like a very basic sort of inline version of the substral morph that I'm using here to like blend the chords and the speech together. And then I have another whole sequencer situation with like dealing with like the drums. So this is like playing back kick samples, and
Yep.
this is playing back snare samples. And I have like these sequencers up here and this like sidechain thing. And then I have all the effects like this fancy reverb, these delays, this resonator, and then they're all kind of like mixed together in this like mixer space here, and sent out. And then you can see the lyrics for the song on that.
I love it.
But yeah, that's kind of how all of these things are coming together. It's not the best explanation, but it touches on everything, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand it. When you get a patch, live kind of thing going on like this, where it's so many levels of complexity, and, once it works and it's in a tab or in a sub patcher or whatever, you typically don't go back in there for
Yeah.
a while, sometimes a long time. And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you go back in there and you're like, so who was the guy that programmed this?
Yeah, literally, yes.
Because
I'm
I don't
facing
know
that.
what's
Yeah.
happening.
I'm facing that on many ends right now. The yeah, like so each sub patch kind of like has this like MC send tilde, and then they all like the output of each sub patch like gets like receives those like outputs, and I just have like a live gain for each of them, and they're all getting like summed together in this little thing here, and then that goes out to the master.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's like one of a few generative things that I perform with.
Love it.
But yeah,
Love it.
yeah,
Man, thank you so much for this. This has been quite a deep dive into your, Max process, your live process, how you record, how you play live. I'm sure I'm just watching the comments just stream in, and folks seem pretty inspired. we've got a bunch of questions here. I'm going to start off with Andrew Benson's question at the top. Do you think you'd approach the next recording project differently after doing more live performance recently?
I think that like there's an aspect of like my practice that's changed over the last couple of years where I mean I'm enjoying things that are like more improvisatory, like making sounds and doing sound design that way. So like building a little system or a patch or whatever, just kind of some environment that I can explore, and then like recording myself working in that environment and like improvising with the computer and enjoying the real time spontaneity of that. This is like opposed to sound design that I used to do, which was a lot more meticulous and like manually drawing in automation, which is really not that fun. So I do a
Mm,
lot of like the way I arrange stuff. It's usually like taking audio and like bringing it into a project and like creating some kind of collage with that. And then all the automation, most of the automation that I do these days is just like mixing, like making sure like these very dynamic sounds I have are all like slotting in nicely with each other and behaving themselves, and like so EQ, stereo field, like all that stuff, volume, like that's what gets automated, and the sound design is more of this like live improv thing. And I think that's like a lot more like I don't know, it like embodies the origins of music a lot more closely than just sort of endlessly clicking away at a computer, you know? Like it was this like physical social thing, and I get a little piece of that when I approach sound design this way. And the music I've been working on right now definitely does that more than nascent. And definitely like me playing live has informed that whole process. So I guess that's the long
right.
answer, and the short answer is yes.
Amazing. Xenon Chameleon is asking, is there a similar system to mimic a, this goes back to the Septrum stuff. Is there a
Mm.
similar system to mimic a syrinx, similar to what birds use? Would there be a difference in the construction or output? Well, that's a great question.
That's a really good question. I have no knowledge about like the physiology of birds and how that would work. There are some really great videos out there on how to like synthesize bird song, but exactly how that would relate to the source filter model, I have no idea. I mean, I imagine there's some crossover,
Mm.
but like I don't know. That's like that is absolutely something worth investigating. That's like a question. Like if Messiaen was living in, you know, the 2000s, like that's a question he would have asked.
No, it's an excellent question. It makes me think about, it always comes up every few weeks, months. Those the sparrows and those birds. Basically, everyone's like, it's an IDM track. Like,
Oh yes, yeah.
I'm
I
like,
yes.
that would be pretty fun if you could generate that stuff. Yeah. Great question. Worth investigating. Nekora asks, any advice for sound designing in Max?
That's a broad question. Let me
Yeah,
think for
yeah.
a second. Um, oh, I actually do.
Maybe just a tip or two, like,
Yeah,
because it is a very
yeah.
broad topic.
It is a broad topic. Let me run through this checklist really quick. Um,
I love your
so
Max presentations. They're
yeah,
incredible.
I got this. This is I studied with a guy named Jesse Stiles, and like his classes were taught and presented through Max, like as
Yeah.
PowerPoint. So, like creating an environment, digital or otherwise, which generates a diverse output either automatically or via user input. User input could be extensive and hands-on or minimal, wherein the user only seeks to guide the system. So like techniques, which is probably more of what you're thinking about. So like recording, resampling that material that you recorded and like bringing it back into the patch, curating your patch or the system. So like the input material that you use, the output material, and like the overall behavior. Transduction, like turning one kind of signal into another, like
Yep.
taking audio, turning it into a jitter matrix, or like a video signal, doing some graphical transformation on the audio, and then like turning it back into audio. And you know, you can do the same thing with like text or like any kind of media or signal. Controlling randomness, this is a big thing. So weighting probabilities, scaling and clipping, like with the poly audio combiner thing I was demoing earlier, I had that like table to control how frequently a particular sound would randomly get chosen. So that's incredibly useful. Quantizing, both in terms of time and pitch, and like other types of data. So like, how would we take like a bunch of random frequencies and like quantize them to a scale, or maybe there's some other like descriptor or feature that you could like quantize, like to create like a more like a more contained set of like a more contained sound palette. Interlinking and cascading events, so like one event triggers or influences another. Parameter reduction, so for me this is like having like a system that has like a bunch of dials and knobs and everything, but like being able to like control, like mass control those parameters with like a very simple gestural input, like an XY pad or maybe like a leap motion controller. And then linking together your system, so a system of systems, and improvising with the system and treating it like as if it's like another performer, and like practicing deep listening with like during your improvisation, and then creating like an organized dated library of your experiments. That's my bullet points on the topic. And then I don't know. Groove tilde is great. There are a bunch of really there are a bunch of really great objects out
Groove
there.
Taylor
PFFT,
rules. Groove.
Gen,
Yeah.
like yeah.
It's also a good question just to throw into the forums, like as a search, because there's actually quite a few threads in there. There's Jean Michael's FFT series, which is a great sound design series. There's so much in there. But also the Discord, good question to ask in the Discord. You'll get a bunch of answers and
Absolutely.
patches and stuff. All right, next question. Seberstein Music Experience 4157. What is your new obsession in sound research?
My new obsession in sound research. Oh, this is a good question.
Yeah, what's buzzing you right now?
I started looking into like de-reverb algorithms, because I was like I didn't make very much headway, but like Isotope RX has a module called de-reverb, and beyond removing reverberations from a signal, it also works great as a sound design tool. It does like a bunch of very interesting things to your signal to like make it like sort of like upfront and in your face, and like add clarity. And so I was like researching that a little bit. Most of it was like over my head though. But still, like that's like a topic I don't think that's been explored like creatively a whole lot. So
Right.
I am definitely trying to learn more about that going forward.
I've seen it there in Isotope. I've never used it or had a reason to use it, but yeah, I'm gonna try it out.
It's like a very high latency process, but if you have like some crazy bass you're working on, or like something really textural, like just throw it on and like, you know, crank the effect and see what it does to the sound. Usually it like will surprise you.
Okay. So, you know, everyone in the chat is going to be running off to try de-reverb later. Um, I love that. And this is, I love how this plays into that whole subversion of tools intended for a particular purpose, but then what comes of those tools in other contexts. Who knows? Yeah. Um, Seagull Infinity says, do you use any machine learning that you have to pre-train, like the data knots?
Um, there's I don't know if this would qualify as machine learning, but like there's some stuff in like Mubu and Flucoma that I use mostly along the lines of like concatenative synthesis, but not a whole lot that I like am pre-training or like creating models or much stuff like that. Mostly because like maybe eventually I'll get around to doing something like that, but like I really when I'm like making something, I like want to start messing around with it like immediately. So like the like as little pre-preparation I can do as possible to just like get to making the sound I do. So there isn't a whole lot of pre-trained stuff. Although one thing I sort of got more into last year is the NN tilde externals. So this is like an implementation of like Earcam's Rave, like real-time style transfer stuff. And like I really like the way that like those sound, even though they all kind of have this like strange grainy quality to them. But all those models are like, you know, ethically sourced and are super fun to play around with, and you can make your own models. And there's one, actually, I can show this really quick. I have a song I put out last year called Aperture for Meadow, and it like features this like strange voice as most of my music does. But the idea, I was like basically pulling this recording of me singing and then like doing a style transfer with the neural net tilde object, and then like morphing those together.
Wow. Epic.
And you can get all these like very strange like vocal timbres out of like, you know, once again like the like whatever the latent whatever is being hallucinated in the latent space, and then my actual voice, and like finding middle grounds there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Leonardo Nanks I8773 asks, have you ever used some hand gesture motion tracking during some of your live sets?
Not during some of my live sets. I've used it like as part of like sort of in the studio, but that is something I want to get around to experimenting with. But those things are like very like I have a Leap Motion controller and I like to use it, but it's like very temperamental, and it takes a lot of time like tuning the thing, and it can definitely like how reactive it is can change like from space to space. So I definitely would like to spend more time to like iron those kinks out, but yes, nothing on the live performance side of things.
Yeah. All good. So I'm curious if Datanauts JP-VG3ZV asks, yeah, I'm curious if Datanauts would be a good way to get into using corpus in a patch, or if there will be something better to experiment with as a beginner. I feel like this is more of a general question.
Yeah, I mean, definitely get into Datanauts. Like the person behind Datanauts, Rodrigo Constanzo, is one of my biggest inspirations, just like hands down, like across the board. Like as a Max programmer, as a musician, as an educator, as a thinker, like truly a brilliant and talented and warm-hearted person. And Datanauts was like the fruit of the last like 2 or 3 years of his labor, probably more.
Yeah, it's
And
incredible.
he took a lot of time to make that library accessible to like anybody opening Macs for the first time. And then like there are extensive tutorials like built into the thing and also on his YouTube, which is like amplifiers and explosions, that like talk about this. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it is built on Flucoma stuff, which is like a lot like, you know, concatenative synthesis and corpus exploration and like descriptor analysis. So it like all works in that way, but just like sort of a little bit more user friendly.
Yeah, totally. No, Rodrigo's been around a long time contributor, long time Max user, but long time, been contributing to the community with vast array of projects over the years. Yeah, he definitely lives, eats, and breathes Max for sure.
I'll be before I knew who he was and became privy to his work. Like I'll like return to forum threads or like threads on the forum that like, you know, I'll reference for patches or whatever, and then I'll just like find him in a post from 2011, and I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah,
like he's just like an OG.
yeah, definitely an OG. Will James 25 is asking, I'm intrigued how you would, this is to do more with recording in Max and the likes, but like I'm intrigued how you would ordinarily take these ideas beyond Max. Like how do things develop once you are pulling recordings back into Ableton? So, are you taking your Max output, reprocessing in Ableton, or yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, and the big bomb drop here is that I don't really use Ableton for music production. My main DAW is actually FL Studio, which I don't know, it shakes some people when they hear that.
Okay, we have to cut the YouTube stream
Yeah. Sorry, like,
right now.
yeah, the Ableton and Cycling 74, like, but
Banned.
yeah. Most of the arrangement happens in FL, and it's just because like the way that DAW is designed is very conducive to like creating like collage like compositions. I have a little image here of like my workflow. So Max I use for everything. You know, I just demonstrated sound design, live performance, whatever. Ableton I use also for live performance, or when I want to use my Max patches with all the amenities of a DAW, I'll like wrap it in Max for Live or whatever. But then the actual arrangement process happens in FL, and like this is just a screenshot of one of my project files. And you can see like we have like MIDI and audio and automation like kind of all on the same track lane. And I'm sure like this would give a lot of people an aneurysm, but for me, like when I'm constructing like a gesture and like the way I think about composition, this is like actually very sensible because I can organize sound events spatially in like the arrangement view in the playlist. And yeah, like a lot of it, a lot of this process of working in FL is like spontaneous and like improvisatory. Like I will just like throw recordings into like the arrangement view and like listen to the moments where things happen to line up and maybe like start composing around that. But like I don't really pre-plan a lot of my compositions. Like it's a lot of discovery, which I think is way more interesting and suits me better personally. I will kind of just try stuff until something sticks and then maybe write linearly from there. Because I don't
Amazing.
know, it just works for me a lot more.
Honestly, it's probably one of the doors I know the least about FL, but I always am fascinated when I see images of your projects. I'm like, I don't know what's happening here, but it looks amazing.
Well, I think a lot of FL users like they can be like people who are like good with FL. They can be hard to parse because I'm using the DAW like non-traditionally. Like I
Right.
don't. There's not really much regard for like beats and bars. Like
Yep.
everything is off the grid and free form. But Yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, just very quickly, I gave that demonstration of like the morphing with a neural net style transfer thing, like Aperture Fumetto, the piece that I made those recordings for, like started from me exploring that idea, and then like the
Beautiful.
first thing I dropped in was this little sort of like a glitchy, like Foley texture thing, and then like that sound, which is that like vocal thing I just was mentioning,
Yep.
and just and like tossing pads in and like improvising on my keyboard and throwing those recordings in there and just kind of like very literally creating like a collage of sounds. And then it's sort of like after that fact, you do your mixing, and like clean things up, and like it's where like a lot of the automation happens
Yep.
for like the dynamic mixing process. But that's like a lot of how like these recordings will find their way into my music.
In my experience, those who care about what something was, the only time people care about what something was made in was because they really like it, and then they're like, "What was that made in?" Because
Yeah, yeah,
otherwise, if it's a hit, it's a hit. Like, there's a reason
yeah,
why Fender can continue to sell Stratocasters year after year.
absolutely. Yeah. And like I could have technically wrote that song in Ableton. It just would have taken me like 8 times longer, right? It's just about what are the strengths, like what's idiomatic to each workstation.
Yeah, because when you make that sound and it goes out into the world, no one's gonna, no one's gonna be like, did it take Alexander 10 hours to compose this, or 100 hours in this thing that we would prefer him to be working in, but it
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
but it was arduous. Yeah, no one gives a shit.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it though, but I also like, Max can work. It has been lumped in, obviously, for obvious reasons with Ableton over the years, but Max is significantly older than Ableton, and there's plenty of doors out there that it's been used with over the years. Yeah,
Wasn't Autechre like using Max as a sequencer for Logic for like a little while?
possibly. I mean, as far as I'm aware of what I've been told, and I can't really go into it more than that without
Sure.
but like,
Yeah, yeah.
Sean was on board with MSP day one, basically. So, they whilst they weren't making full Max albums, they were certainly using it in many ways. In early stuff, I'm sure. So as far as specifics, I can't say, what tracks were they sequencing or what, but yeah, I'm sure they were definitely experimenting with it a lot. Yeah.
Nice.
Uh, yeah, amazing. Thanks for that answer. Any plans for future releases of devices? Is there any device stuff on the boiler at the moment?
Yeah, I do have like a couple things um, under wraps right now. One device I'm planning on putting out hopefully next year some point, and I've been using it in my live performances, and it's been a blast because it can be used in like a sound design context, but also in a performance context, which is like a niche I feel like not a lot of devices fill. And like so there is stuff coming on that, and then I also have like a small like maintenance, like a color transfer update I have to push soon because I don't know if you know this, Max 9.1 just came out. They did a bunch of like cool FFT optimizations,
Mm.
right? And it totally broke Cepstral processing in Max.
Oh,
Like, so I was able to like figure out some like temporary solutions, but like there are bug reports I have to fill and
have you?
get all that
Yeah, you might
sorted.
want to email those into support, and
Oh yeah.
even if you have a workaround, because I'm not sure it should. it shouldn't have broken things per
Like
se.
it works. It just, I mean, it doesn't crash or anything. It just like doesn't sound like how it should sound.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
We'd like
but
to
yeah,
hear
just like a
about that.
little, yeah. I've been sort of dealing with stuff like on my end of things and like making like seeing what damage control I can do there. And yeah, it's just I just got to get around to those bug reports. But
We might be able to do the damage control for you with a fix. So, you know,
well, yeah.
um,
But I'll get that information over. That was just like a little like behind the scenes, um, software upkeep sort of
all
thing.
good. Okay, so there's stuff on the horizon, folks. So, you know what to do. Save your money that you get in your Christmas cards from Nana for Alexander's devices. They're coming. Isaac Pell asks, what's your strategy for organizing experiments for easy iteration and reuse? I think that's an excellent question because it's so easy to fill folders with sounds.
Yeah.
And often, sometimes that becomes overwhelming, and then you end up don't even using them. Like,
So there's like two things I can recommend here is like create a dated library of your work. Like everything should be in a folder that like, where the folder is the year you worked on the sound in, and then like if you can use like the year, month, date file formatting convention, like definitely use that because it sorts itself. So YYY MMDD YYYY. And then on top of that, on top of like having things dated in, categorized subfolders, like every sound that you create like should have some kind of name that immediately evokes what the thing sounds like. So whether that's like very literal, where you're describing the technique used, like granular resonator thing, and or like more abstract, that just like immediately conjures up like what the thing is in your head. So, for example, like this is a sound like I made recently that I really like, and it's called Arduous Balm, which like probably means nothing to anybody else, but for me, I like know exactly what this sounds like. It's like this weird, crunchy, evil bass texture with all of this like sort of spectral detail and the spectral qualities and stuff. So like I don't know, it sounded arduous the way the thing was like vocalizing or whatever. So, and yeah, everything that I make like gets put into my sound design library. So like a lot of my music like recycles this material, and transforms it. I'll pull from the library, make a sound, make a new sound, and then maybe it goes back in. And so I actually like traced the lineage of one of my sounds once to like find all of the component pieces that like led to this final thing. And it was like a tree with like 9 levels to it.
I love it.
So yeah, like it's a great way to just like have a nice repository. And then yeah, just pulling from it whenever you need it.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I can't stress enough the folder thing. Folders take up no space. I do the same. I have years. I make on 1st of January every year. I make a new folder, like with the year. I've been doing that for a couple of decades now, and it really does make stuff easier. What I found is it makes it easy to remember because I can think, oh, I can roughly remember what year I did a certain thing, recorded a certain thing, and it just gets me. I can get to the source fast. Um,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's a big thing. It's like I also have like a very strong memory associated with like musical
yeah,
events. So same deal, and you build a mental map of this thing.
yeah.
So it's makes it very easy to traverse. Like I could tell you exactly where a particular sound is and pull it up immediately.
Yeah.
without much thought. So
Yeah, and I think it is just by setting out that folder structure from the beginning, and you can think the year, and then roughly the month, and you can typically find stuff pretty quickly.
yeah.
Love it. One question here. This is a good one. I had was if have you done any intentional misuse with the color transfer devices, like maybe feeding polyphonic material into the timbre resynth, or have you heard of strange misuse? Because I feel like they lend themselves to this as well. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. The timbre resynth is probably like the most susceptible to be like abused in this way. And yeah, it really comes down to what you're putting in like the timbre input. And I think like something that's really fun is like processing the audio that's going into the timbre input. So like say it's like some oscillator that you're extracting the timbre from. Like it doesn't have to stop there. You can like add effects to the oscillator itself and like move between something that's like maybe more like suited to its use case and like harmonious, and then maybe you have like a bunch of frequency shifters or filters or something like that, and processing the timbre input, and so you're able to move between like a more traditional use case and like maybe something that like breaks it. Like you could use the morph and morph like your timbre input between like an oscillator and like maybe like a drum set, and like there's a lot of crazy things that can happen there. And yeah, like there's so many possibilities to cover. Also, like lowering the polyphony on the tambourine synth is really fun because then you just get like two oscillators or like two like partials or
yeah,
whatever, and you just kind of get these like glitchy, crackly like stereo things, and then you can tune them with the polytuner, bring them into the key that you're working in and stuff. So yeah, there's like a lot to explore on that front too.
amazing. Amazing. Well, folks, Alexander, this has been incredible. We got a lot of questions there, and thank you for answering all of those. And this has been very inspiring, I must say. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Folks, shout out to Alexander for joining us for office hours. I think we're going to have to get you back for a file organization stream. I think we may also need to get you back for the complete Septum Max presentation, because I kind of want to just spend a whole session on that. That
Oh
looks
yeah, totally.
incredible. Yeah, we've had a solid crew in here for the whole stream, so that's very exciting. Folks, so keep your eye out on Alexander's. If you scroll up in the chat, you'll see all the links for his work. Maybe I could repost them here very quickly. But you can find him online pretty easily. You can also find Alexander in the Discord. And that's where we mostly hang out. Discord link is also there. But yeah, next week we're back for another office hours, 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. We have Kyle Evans from out there in Austin, Texas. Kyle is a credible artist, educator, also the director of the incredible audiovisual space Data Lab. Yeah, worth streaming, worth coming in. 12:30 p.m. next Wednesday. Alexander Panos, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you everybody who showed up for this. This was great.
Yeah, amazing. All right, folks, we'll see you next week. Take care. Be well. Happy patching.